Thank you, Dr. Midman. Thank you. Dr. Midman gave a very good introduction of me. Well, I want to give you greetings today. Look at the weather. It's beautiful. I remember seeing the royal wedding on May the 19th. I was in Canada with the sister city, and we visited Barnaby. And I was glad I stayed by myself in a hotel room. So I turned the TV on from 1 a.m. until the morning. Again, Mother Nature is good to us today. Give you a beautiful day and a beautiful spirit. And I'm very honored to be here giving you this commencement speech. Now, you are graduating from one of the finest naturopathic colleges that we have in this country. And I wanted to share with you the 3 successes. How to be even more successful. The first, you already got it, is called educational success. But this took you several years. And you had to use your time, your talents, and many treasures to reach this milestone. Along the journey, you got cheerleaders, your family, your spouse, your relatives, and most important thing, your teachers, your professors, your mentors, even your patients. And then you are here. So getting this degree is really important because it's a stepping stone. I wanted to let you know that the people that have supported you have shown you help, shown you kindness, and don't forget them. You always thank them. But today you should give yourself a few minutes and pat yourself on the back because you have done the mission. In the military setting, they said mission accomplished. So that's step 1. Now, the second success is called professional success. And this is going to be a little bit more interesting because you're going to embark on this amazing journey. And now you have to think in terms of decades. I've done it for 50 years, and I'm still going on. And then you need to have the correct mindset. The correct mindset will be your key to success. The correct mindset will put you in different situations where you have to use your common sense, your flexibility, and your other skills to sort of go in and out of the situation. The naturopathic medicine, I looked up the history, actually is now gaining very, very good recognition. And when it first started was in 1902, the first class. It was by Dr. Benedict Lust in New York City. And there, a group of young graduates like you all decided to form the naturopathic practitioners and then continue to establish colleges in this country. So naturopathic medicine is now in the 78th year. And as we know, in the marketplace where I practice medicine every day, it's now gaining recognition. And because why? It has very deep roots. The roots are so strong and deep, it goes into the mother nature and into the earth. And yet we have many, many strong branches. And you all can have a choice to see which branch you want to work in or which branches you want to do. So for example, you have botanical medicine, you have clinical nutrition, homeopathic medicine, manipulative therapy, acupuncture, oriental medicine, and even lifestyle counseling. Each branch now has many, many leaves, and I call them different modalities. So as a naturopathic physician, there are many opportunities for you. The doors will open. You can be a clinical practitioner like me for 50 years. You can also start with your own individual practice or group practice, or you can work for an organization. For me, I work with the hospitals, but I can also work in an institution. And you can work with different centers where they are promoting naturopathic medicine. At the same time, you can now do academics, teach the next generation so that your future generation of naturopathic physicians will continue on. Now, you can also be a researcher. There's a big push now for even pharmaceutical companies to hire naturopaths to do research because they know a lot of botanicals are very useful. The other important thing is that when you go into this journey, remember the same thing. You got to use time, your talents, and then you have to start gathering all your treasures which is all your experiences in life. And your treasures will come in terms of experiences or in terms of patients that you deal with or very difficult situation. But always be kind and thank them. You can even be an entrepreneur and create systems and botanical medicine companies and so on. So there's a lot of opportunity. Now, I want you to take a pause and tell you my story. I think that's probably going to be educational. So I graduated 50 years ago, and my career has been really going through the twists and turns. And I started in Singapore, and I graduated from what they call then the King Edward VII College of Medicine, because Singapore was a British colony until 1965. So I learned was the traditional British system, which is good. They're very strict, and you have to honor your professors, and you cannot tell them that they're wrong. So I worked very hard. And within a few years, I have to go through what they call housemanship, which is the same as what they call intern, and then residency. And then you got to take your specialty, choose your specialty. And then you go into become a senior registrar and senior registrar. So I chose the specialty of children's health called pediatrics, because at that time in Singapore, they had very few pediatricians. And so it was a good, what they call discipline for me, and I like it because I'm short. And so I only take care of small kids. And most of them are not bigger than me. And it was a very good fit for many years. So I was really in very good standing, enjoying my life. And I was actually mentoring students. I was actually the house mistress of the dorm for the medical students. And I had an excellent time there. And then in 1974, 6 years in my good, nice period, something happened. And so my professor, Wong, asked me to accompany a very sick patient. His name was David, and he was the first twin. He was 12 years old. He was complicated because he was in coma for many months, and he required 3 airplane seats. He needed IV and oxygen, and they were going to bring him to America. I guess the professor thought I would be a good fit as a volunteer. So that began my volunteering. I brought David and flew with his parents, first to Frankfurt and then to New York City. Now, British Airways is not a good airway because they are very afraid that David will pass on the plane. And if you do pass on the plane in those days, if you pass it midway before they refuel in Bahrain, the whole plane have to go back to Singapore. And if you pass Bahrain and if David passed on from Bahrain to New York City, he has to be converted into a cargo. That's what I was told. And that was many years later. But anyway, we went to Frankfurt and then we went to New York City. And when we arrived in New York City, David was fortunately to be accepted as a teaching case and a research case with a very special center called the Memorial Kettering Cancer Center in New York City. It was a big institution. And at that time, I said, ooh, what am I getting into it? But I figured it was good because that experience really changed my life. And what we did was at Sloan Kettering, David eventually passed on. And I decided to ask his professor, who was doing his case, for a job. And she was a very famous oncologist. And she did a lot of NCI studies and grants. She told me, first thing, you have to get a green card. I didn't even know what it was. So I said, okay, I'll go back and find out. And I got my green card in about 6 months. And I was shocked. And it was in 1974. So I came into this country in 1975, in February, very cold. And I lived in New York City for the next 5 years. And that was a tough one. I really never saw the sun. I worked. I did research. I did my residency. I did my fellowship. I have to take so many exams so that you can practice in this country. Anyway, I did it, and I gave myself a big pat. And then I settled down in Arizona, and that was another challenge because in that time in Arizona in 1980, Phoenix Children was really just starting. I mean, they are not very well with all the discipline. Cotton's Children was not even here. So I had to use my common sense, and I started practice. And that was where another interesting happened. So my husband, Mr. Lim, he says, why don't you join the active reserves? I say, why? He says, he thinks it's good to learn about military medicine. So I did. So I signed up. And of course, you go into the system. And it was good. I was a weekend soldier, so I learned about military medicine. I learned about leadership. I learned about how you keep the fighting force, make the soldiers able to perform. And then in 1991, my unit got activated to go to Desert Storm, and that's where things happened. I was there for 5 months, and it wiped out my practice, back to zero. So when I come back, I have to restart it again. But if you got enthusiasm and you got the willpower, you can succeed. So Desert Storm and the military taught me about humanity and about kindness. So when I came back from Desert Storm, I decided I wanted to do something better for the community. I set up a nonprofit for children, but at the same time, I decided to volunteer more and then learn about humanity. So I traveled to many parts of the world, and then I saw there's a need. And that's where it asked me to sort of look into the different ways of healing. So I was a very successful allopathic doctor, but I feel that my toolbox has to be expanded. I'm not just going to prescribe what you call pharmaceutical. And that's why I became a licensed homeopath, and today I practice integrative medicine. I've been in practice about starting my 39th year. And of course, my patients are now big people, so I also have a big people practice where I do alternative medicine. Now, the reason I share with you this story is that the next decade for you will be a twist and turn, good and bad, but every moment you got to learn, because that really strengthens your character and make you become a more, what I could call, total person. And what I learned with this is that I want to pass on this enthusiasm to you, because I learned in life, if you got enthusiasm, it's the same as passion. And passion is power, and power is action. And with action, you can then proceed to be successful. And this is where we're going to move on to the third success. So we finished educational success. You're embarking on your professional success. Now, when you become really successful, you got to really promote community success. It's not good for you to be success by yourself. Nobody is sharing it. And around you, you see a lot of poverty. No. Once you make the community successful, it's a good place to live in. It's a vibrant community. So even like Mesa, they now have the arts. They have now a lot of museums. They're almost like a little beginning of New York City, where I was there many years ago. So when you have community success, they need people like you. You should take leadership position. You can serve. You can volunteer. And you can really lead and be philanthropic, which means you got to use your time and your talents. And then you have to give your treasures. And the most important two treasures I always tell people to give is the gift of kindness. And then the next thing is the gift to teach people how to be successful. So I read up about Mark Twain. You know, Mark Twain is the author of Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. They got a lot of adventures. And you know what Mark Twain said? When you practice, that is a language where the deaf can hear and the blind can see. So once again, I want you to continue to start thinking and keep promoting success. Promote your own success, and now you promote everyone around to be successful, especially your patients. If you want them to heal, just telling them to do things is not good enough. You're going to help them to be successful. Because we learn the mantra, success will beget success. So congratulations again, and thank you.